Hey, welcome back to the Positive Side Podcast. Glad you were tuning in. The host, Jeremy Todd, coming from the brand new world headquarters. And I'm telling you what, I was showing these guys that are going to be on the show here briefly about the disaster that you would call this office. It's hilarious. I mean, I should just paint LOL on the back of this wall right now. It's so crazy. But, hey, that's part of life, right? It's transitioning. It's trying to get better. And sometimes before you get better, things get a little ugly, and boy, last couple of days have been a little ugly, but I know the good things are coming. So that's obviously good for me, good for you, and good for everybody else out there. Real quick, I want to give a big shout out. I had a listener the other day, and I reached out to her and I said, "Hey, what can I do better for my show?" And she said, "Jeremy, you can just do more shows." And you know what? That really hit home because it's something that's like that. I know what I have to do type thing. And for some reason, I just don't do it. But having that positive reinforcement and saying that actually people, want to hear more of me, which is bizarre in itself, but whatever. I took it to heart and it's much love. And now they got the new world headquarters. We're going to be doing a lot more podcasts. And we're, like always, we're going to throw out my whole life and talk about the ups and downs and talk about what's going on in my personal life too. And we'll do that on another show, but you guys are going to get a kick out of that today. Super excited. Today we got LeenaLemos and KristaXiomara. I know I nailed both of those right. And I'm so excited for you guys to be on the show. You guys have a great project coming on. So first, guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
I feel delighted and privileged to have both of you on the show, especially with the last couple of days and me jerking you guys around and being late and then all the other good stuff. So again, I appreciate that. But welcome to the show real quick. Can you guys introduce yourself?
My name is LeenaLemos. I am the founder of House of Enlightenedhood. I'm also an author and TV host and mom to a moon girl and a polka dotted dog.
Oh, I love it.
That's about it.
All right, I love it.
And a wife.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Oh, yeah, throw that in there at the end. Yeah, no big deal.
Oh, Steph.
I think it's, I don't know. If I'm...
I love it. Either way, I love it.
You just threw me under the bus in my own marriage. Hopefully you won't listen to this.
Krista, fire away.
Yeah, so I'm KristaXiomara. I am the host of I'm Awake Now What podcast that has been on for about 3 years. I'm also the co-founder of House of Enlightenedhood. I merged my business with Leenas last year, and we are on a super fast mission to sort of shake and awaken the collective and change the trajectory of humanity together with this new innovative business model and platform that we're going to talk to you about today. So we're super pumped about that.
Well, I'm excited about it too. And I think you kind of nailed it a little bit there when you talk about like I would say it's an emerging area of opportunity, but in reality, it's been there forever, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just finally now that we have people like you guys, like really stepping out there and starting your business and showing people that in the past thought, oh, this is woo, or this is not right, or this doesn't make any sense. You're giving these people an opportunity to have their own stage and really get those services and products out to help people get to the next level because, man, oh man, life is not easy. So I guess real quick, what made you guys start that?
Mine started when I was 6 months pregnant and I was just so over the bullshit and the rhetoric that we have in pregnancy and womanhood and motherhood. And I was going through this huge spiritual reawakening. And it just made me realize that motherhood is such a very small facet of that. We do this to every single human experience where it's such this shallow meaning. And then we feel like we're experiencing life all alone. So I actually started with Krista, not with Krista, but similar to Krista, started a podcast just asking other mothers, why do we have this shallow narrative around what it means to be a woman and a mother and lead the next generation? And that just kind of snowballed into this huge, bigger purpose of making sure that each person understands how powerful and capable they are, because we're not really taught that growing up. So since it's been my mission to help people remember that.
Yeah, I love it. So powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Krista, what do you think? Like I know I was on your show and I love your show, by the way. And we had a great conversation, but I obviously I would assume it's probably very similar to the reason that you got into this as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about Leena and I coming together is we both had different entry points into our spiritual awakening. Hers was motherhood, mine was through religious wounding and trauma. And through that trauma, creating this like space and place for me to heal and also awaken and find a safe place for me to land in my own experience, which brought me to the same place as Leena did, which was like create an audio community for people to like discuss what was going on, give them information and tools to be able to, lean into that experience of sort of waking up after you're sort of moving from your Abrahamic religion, which is very much in our Western world. And the other thing that we really came to find as a common denominator was this passion about the idea of enlightenment is something that's like very like woo woo and all up in the air. And like you think you have to be like a monk and like be in the caves and then that's when you'll reach enlightenment. And we realized very quickly as our common denominator and why we're so passionate about this is that in order for us to reach enlightenment, like Leena and I can do that on our own, and you can do that on your own as well, Jeremy. But there's a whole subset of this world that doesn't have access to wisdom, to retreats, to information, to tools, because of barriers like financial situations, real financial barriers from people's socioeconomic status, their gender, their location. Some people don't even have smartphones, right?
Yeah.
And so Leena and I were like, we're not satisfied with the idea of us reaching our enlightenedhood in this lifetime. So how are we going to make sure everybody else comes along with us? And this was the birthing of our amalgamation of both of our businesses and saying like, all right, we've got to bring everyone with us. And what does that look like? And so now we're at the beginning stages of forming the actual tangible platform that gives access to everybody to ensure that we make sure everybody enlightens in this lifetime, because that's what we're really passionate about.
I love it. I love it. And that's why I was so excited to get you guys on the show. And one of the reasons I also want to get you on the show was, and I briefly told you this yesterday, Krista, and I want to ask both of you guys your opinions of this. This is really bizarre. It happened to me the other day. And it's probably happened to me a couple times in my life, but within the last 4 or 5 days, I had, this is totally random. So I'm just warning you guys, totally random, but I think you guys would have great insight for this. I had these dreams the other day that I don't remember them now anymore. Um, but within that day, they were so real that I thought they were actually real, if that makes any sense. Like I couldn't determine what was reality and what was an actual dream. And it kind of freaked me out because then it was so bizarre because I had conversations with somebody in my dream that I could almost call them the next day, then ask them what we talked about, but I wasn't sure if it was reality or if it was a dream. It was so bizarre and so weird. And I don't know what it was. I don't know why that happened to me at that point. I don't know if it my sleep patterns, I'm sure a lot of it had to do with my sleep patterns probably messed up, or what time I went to bed, or what is maybe even something I ate. And I know all that sleep is so important and there's so many different things that goes on while you're sleeping, but I don't know why that happened. And I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts and opinions are on that.
I think that you need to lay down. We're going to psychoanalyze this whole thing first.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely. We should.
no. I will just speak up first here. As I actually just taught a dream healing course on our platform, because I interact very deeply with the collective in my dreams, and I know Leena will have some really interesting things to say about this as well. And what I'm hearing intuitively about what happened to you is that you've now opened up something inside of you. There is this like sacred remembering and connection to everything that is. And somebody who wanted to get in touch with your energy found you in that dream state. And the reason it felt so real was because it was. We have a very narrow view of our reality. And the thing about your podcast about being on the positive side podcast, right? There's this idea of like, we are the artisans of our life. We are creating, with every thought is a stroke of what we're creating in front of us. The same thing happens in our dreams. They're all one thing. And so I would say that whenever you get to a point where you can remember, I think you've opened something really beautiful inside yourself spiritually to allow you to connect with people on a really deep level. And I think it was really important that you had that experience. And Leena, I don't know what you want to say.
I'm laughing because I was going to literally say the exact same thing about our narrow perception of reality. And I think we have such a minuscule understanding of the human consciousness. And It's my understanding that quantumly, there's millions of versions of reality happening right now. So as you begin to expand your awareness and your consciousness, you have access to all these different timelines. There might be a timeline where you're living a completely different life somewhere else on this earth. There might be one that you're living this life now, but some things are slightly different. So when we're dreaming, we're going into that dream state. We're actually, going into a different state of consciousness, which allows us to kind of travel between these layers of our own consciousness and the quantum reality. Thus, like Krista said, it was real because it was happening on a different quantum field,
Yeah.
basically. So that's my understanding of it. And I think that's really cool when we start to dream. And I always have that too. I'm like, it's almost when I dream, I'm going into a slightly different version of my own reality. And it's
Mm.
fascinating once you start to explore that, because chances are now that you've opened it, like Krista said, it's just going to keep happening.
Mhm.
So welcome.
Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah, this is
Welcome to the
great. I love it.
quantum.
Love it here. This is awesome. You know what's interesting though, when you guys are talking, and maybe this is, and I think this is what is so important about what you guys are doing, because I was almost, my first thoughts are, is it, well, obviously, is it real? But then I almost thought like, how do I put this in words? I was almost like afraid of it, like afraid of what happened, not like in a scary way, but like afraid of the unknown, of what is this
Mhm.
trying to teach me, what's this telling me. And I think a lot of that has to do with how we're brought up in society, right? I mean, it's we're taught that what the experience that I had is not real, it's not reality, it's just, shake it off. But in actual reality, like you guys said, it is real. So
Mhm.
my first thought right away was, "Oh my God, I don't know how this is so bizarre. This is so weird. What's wrong with you?" And all this negative self-talk came instantly, and it was weird. But then it almost instantly went away within like a few minutes. And maybe that's just that the type of person I am, and then I acknowledge the negative self-talk and I can get over it quick. But still, it was just interesting how that happened initially. And I think when we talk about these different ideas and different thoughts and different pathways and finding ourselves, that is what we were talked about in the past. Of like, you couldn't spread this with anybody, you couldn't tell anybody your story, you couldn't talk about that because it was looked down upon. And again, that's why I just think what you guys are doing is so important, um, because it's going to give people the opportunity to really express themselves in a different way, different meaning. And you went all through all the options of why it's so important. But again, I don't, obviously you guys are just starting out and rocking and rolling with it, but I don't know if even you guys can grasp how big this could possibly be, because I
Oh,
think
we
it's just
know.
such a huge market. Yeah. I mean, it's such a huge market for people that don't know where to go. And you know what? Now they got you guys, which is awesome.
I,
Well, and
no,
sorry,
you
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Lena.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say one thing to bring it back to even the people that might even be having a hard time grasping the reality of the dream that you felt. A good way of bringing it back to center and into this like three-dimensional place that we're living in right now is that when we get off of this interview, I know I have thing X, Y, and Z to do, right? That future is existing right now in parallel to this current moment. Your dreams are like the same.
Mm.
So it's like to think about it in that way too can give it a little more structure. I just wanted to say that, but go ahead,
Mm.
Lena.
What I was going to say is, I think when you cultivate a certain level of self awareness, you realize how much conditioning we have about these expansive perspectives in our life. And I think once that really small version of reality is blown wide open, it really does give you that compassion and the ability to see these ideas or things that you may have seen labeled as woo woo or witchy or new age, or all these things are actually just a very basic ancient human understanding of our own energy and our own consciousness and the way that the universe works. And so I think what we're especially trying to do is really normalize that, because it's really easy to put labels on it and create this form of divisiveness that, oh, there's these witchy people over here like dancing down by the river howling at the moon, and it's
Yeah.
easy, to shun them from society. But I think once you get to a certain point of understanding how capable you are of understanding your own experiences, even when they don't make sense in this reality that you've been conditioned to, it changes everything in the way that you see the world. So the more that we can normalize it, the more that we give a platform, exactly what you're doing, to have these types of conversations and not feel this conditioned shame that something's wrong with us.
Yeah. You know, and what was popped through my head, this is probably a terrible analogy, but you know, when I'm big on food, eating clean food, eating organic food, and it's like one of those things that people are like, oh, you're eating that healthy food. Okay, well, isn't food like, why would you eat something that's unhealthy? It's similar, but
Yeah,
not,
food comes out healthy, or like our fruits and vegetables, they
yeah.
arrive on earth healthy, and then we muck them up.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just when you were saying that, just that's what popped in my head there. But let me ask you guys this. Okay, so if I'm a holistic nutritionist and I want to get my business going, and I don't know what to do, I don't know where to start. How are you going to help someone like that?
So we're creating a platform that is, imagine if Amazon or Etsy, Instagram and Facebook, Udemy all had a baby.
Okay.
And so you can go to connect with someone, you can go to market and sell your products, you can have people book your services and find you all within this platform that creates this sense of trust and value that is moving away from, like you said, there's so much financial opportunity in this right now. It's so easy for people to be taken advantage of because a lot of people see our dollar signs within this industry. So what we're trying to do is create a platform that is rooted in intentions and ethics that allows someone who would be a nutritionist to join the platform. So the heart of it is a spiritual cooperative of businesses, like a chamber of commerce. Krista likes to use the United Nations as an analogy, where we're all coming together to create this ecosystem. So a nutritionist would have the option to be listed in the directory so people can find them. You can book appointments with them, you can buy their their herbal elixir that they've created, you can engage with them on a social connection, social media platform type of way, you can read articles that they've written, videos that they've created, all within this one platform.
Yeah, and we recognize that the real challenge has been for the spiritual community because there's two major shifts happening from a business perspective. The first part is that the spiritual industry has boomed like crazy because we are having a great awakening. However, it's being commoditized in a very unethical way. The second piece of that is we're now evolving as a culture and a global society to be more entrepreneurial instead of traditional business practices. So we have realized that there's this really big opportunity to create synergy, to bring that transparency and that ethicalness back into the spiritual entrepreneur space and allow these people to not have to go and spread their energy all over the place, building a website, engaging their social media, or like building multiple social media arms, having a storefront like Shopify. We're basically going to bring all of those things under one thing so that they don't have to do that. And so it's like seamless interaction and to B2C and B2B and back and forth. And so we're creating this very beautiful symbiotic economic ecosystem that's going to be continuously looping back to each other in a way that allows these spiritual entrepreneurs, the seekers, the aspirants, the healers, and also conscious companies to be able to interact with one another in a very like integrated and holistic way. And those aren't just like buzzwords that we're saying. I mean, that's what we're envisioning this to be. So we really know it's going to just take off like crazy, and we're so excited about it.
Well, I'm excited about it because it's almost like a place for not only the entrepreneur that has that, but it's also, you know, where does just the normal, you know, Joe Schmo go? Like
Right.
if I'm thinking this, I don't know where to go. Like in Fort Wayne, Indiana, there is nothing like that at all. You know, my wife went up to Michigan yesterday just to find, or not, this wasn't the only reason, but she went up there to find a dentist that uses clean. They don't use like what do you call
Like
that? Like
fluoride.
Fluoride.
Don't use
well,
fluoride.
not only fluoride, but also the stuff you put in cavities. What's that? Whatever that filling stuff is. So it was like I don't know. It was like some resin-based diamond, blah 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 blah. But it's the only way. She couldn't find anybody like that, so she had to drive 3 hours into Lansing, Michigan, to get that done because it's important. You know, and it's important to her. It's important to her health, and I believe it. I mean, when you get
It's
into
important what we put in our bodies.
yeah, absolutely. So when especially when you talk about putting metal fillings in there, I mean, it's just not a good. I don't even know if they do that anymore, but anyways, long story short, that she wanted to find somebody like that, and she couldn't, and she researched and researched and researched. And I think this is a good opportunity for not only nationally but globally, but you can also do it on a local level as well. So if a business here in Fort Wayne is on there, I can connect with that person right away and then go over there myself and figure out whatever I need to figure out. So I think what you guys are doing is brilliant, and I can't wait to get involved as well. So I mean, hats off to both of you guys.
Thank you.
When are you gonna go? Is this gonna be? Is it live now?
Well,
There-
we have like a digital platform that sits in the background right now, but
Okay. Well, I can't wait. I mean, like I
sorry.
said, I can't wait to get on there, and I'll obviously help any way I can. And by having this podcast on there, we're going to get people to reach out to you as well. But one of the things
I'm
that's
sorry. Let me just go back there just for
yeah,
a
go ahead.
second, Jeremy. Sorry, I interrupted Leena, but she was going to say what we really want to express to everybody, that we're in phase one of getting our investors to get the actual platform built, so that it's one synergistic thing. Because right now it's just a digital platform, and we need to have it converted into an application as well.
Perfect. I mean, I guess that's obviously going to help too, and that's one of the reasons we want to get you guys on here. To, if anybody's interested in this, obviously reach out to these guys. We're going to have all the contact information at the bottom of the show notes as well.
Yeah.
So make sure you do that also. I told you guys before we started this, one of my favorite books of all time is, well, I didn't tell you the book, but it's John Maxwell's book, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. And John Maxwell goes over these 7 questions. Are you guys ready for them?
Yes.
All right. Question number 1 from Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. What is it? Yeah, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. I gotta look at my book again, make sure I get that right. But I know it's John Maxwell. Question number 1 is, what is the greatest lesson you've ever learned?
The greatest lesson I've ever learned is that everything starts with self. Everyone is a reflection of how you view yourself, and to change your world is to change yourself, which means more love, awareness, compassion, gratitude, presence. And that's how the world shifts, is within the center of your own heart.
Let me ask you a quick question about that.
Sure.
Do you believe that everything you put out comes back to you? Because there's a lot of people that I'll hear this a lot, that if someone's being an asshole to you, it's because you're being an asshole to somebody else. Is that true? Because because me, the positive side guy, I'm like, well, no, maybe they're just having a bad day and they want to vent on me. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, shit, maybe I am an asshole to somebody. What do I do? What's your thoughts on that? Because you said it was obviously everything begins with self. So is that literally everything?
So I have 2 thoughts on that. The first is, the best analogy that I've ever heard is, when you have an orange and you squeeze it, what comes out?
Orange juice.
Orange juice. So when you have a human and you put pressure on them, what comes out? Whatever's on the inside. So if they're
Okay,
facing
yeah.
adversity, someone gets cut off, whatever's coming out is what's on the inside. So, the 4 agreements, I think it's lesson number 2, is don't take anything personally. Everyone is acting within their own self-realization. So if they're angry, that's the lens that they see the world through. Our brain has a really great way of kind of filtering out our own, our belief system to make our reality look the way that we think it should be. So if everyone's annoying, the world sucks, then the world is going to suck and everyone's going to be really annoying.
Absolutely.
So I think it's really, again, it goes back to self, and we can only control our own perspective and have compassion that people are only acting based on their own self-understanding.
Perfect. Krista, what's the
I would
greatest lesson you've
say,
ever learned?
yeah, and just to tack on to what Leena said, is I think that the one thing I've learned as well, like the 4 agreements, everybody, that should just be core curriculum for being a human being. You need to read that
Yeah.
book first. But the not taking it personal, because I think what I do when people come to me when they've had the pressure squeezed, and they come to me with something less than their highest vibration, I just recognize that that's an opportunity for me to reflect kindness back to them. So I don't lash out. I don't react to them. I just, show up as big as I can, and like from a loving, compassionate place, because that's what they need. That's behind what's ever being squeezed in the background. So I think that's, yeah. To answer your question, I don't think it's a 1-to-1. I don't think that the world is like that.
I don't think so either. I mean, I hope not, because, well, I take that back. For me personally, I hope it would be, because, I try and put out positive energy every single situation I possibly can, but I know that's not everyone's reality either. So I get that. And sometimes they need my positive energy more than I even understand or realize it. And that's, that's why I'm totally cool with being that the cheesy, nice guy, always happy. That's me, because I think other people need that as well.
And it does come back to you. The energy finds its way back to you for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Krista, question number 2, we'll start with you, is what are you learning now?
I am learning this week, after spending 4 days with Leena, that nothing I thought before was actually real.
Sweet.
That's the most existential answer.
And I'm also losing a big part of what I used to identify with, and that's been a very Leena knows it's been, it's been really interesting to go through. I've spent my last decade unidentifying myself with things because that's been my purpose, to unidentify and undomesticate myself. And I just went through this very big undomestication, and now I'm kind of shaking out in the end and trying to figure out, well, I'm not that anymore, and I'm becoming
Yeah.
something different now, and it's interesting.
How does that feel? Is it, I mean, is it, can you feel it like as an actual weight, like a weight off your shoulder? Do you wake up differently? Like, what does that look like?
I told Leena yesterday, and we're doing this really cool thing with our journey. We're video diarying this whole experience, and
Cool.
I said it in the video diary, but I also to Leena and I talk all day long, and I said I feel as if I've been in a 3-day ayahuasca experience.
Cool.
My body hurts. I can't eat. I haven't eaten for 3 days,
Oh, wow.
and I've been like physically vibrating. I felt my heartbeat at the base of my spine yesterday morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. I feel a huge shift, and I feel scared, to like what you said. I told Leena this yesterday too. I feel scared, excited about what's happening, but scared because I don't know what's next. I'm excited because I realize that I have been holding myself back. There was all this expansiveness that even I wasn't able to touch, but Leena is such a beautiful conduit, and she held a lot of, like, I would say, gracious space for me to sort of transmute this last part of my old identity that kind of needed to come through. And I feel very grateful that she did that for me.
So powerful.
Mhm.
Leena, what are you learning now?
I am learning that, similar to what Krista said, the world needs my voice. And I've been holding back because I don't know if you're familiar with not Myers-Briggs. There's the strengths quest. And so it's your top 5 strengths, and similar to Myers-Briggs, and one of mine is harmony. So I never ever want to say anything that, makes a harmony imbalance. But I'm realizing in what we're doing, there has to be a lot of speaking up that has to happen. There has to be a lot of disruption that needs to happen, and standing up for the right thing. That's not that I haven't in the past, but I really need to stand my ground and be the voice of change. And up until this point, I've just been the action of change behind the scenes and not really used my voice in that way. So I'm stepping into a place where I've shed so much of, the self-limiting beliefs that we have of, like, who am I to say this? What are people going to think? Who's going to judge me? Are the people I went to high school with silently, like, talking about me?
Yeah.
And I mean, we all have that thought growing up on social media, but stepping into that place where I know that my voice is of pure intention for the good of myself and humanity, and knowing that that's enough.
It's like one of those things when I think it was Steve Harvey has this video about about getting out of your, getting into your comfort zone, or getting out of your comfort zone, but becoming the person that you actually are. And he talks about jumping off a cliff, and he said, on the way down, you're gonna hit the wall, you're gonna get scraped up, bumps and bruises, but eventually that parachute is gonna open. It's gonna hurt for a while, but eventually it has to open, because it's your mission, it's what you're here on this planet for, and it's not pretty. It's everyone's journey is different. I talked about this the other day. I was on a podcast. And I was talking about, like, my personal journey and, like, how long it's taken me to get to where I am. And not only, like, not physically or financially or anything like that, it was really the mental part of it. And I joked around that it's probably taken me 40, I'm 43 now, but it's taken me 40 years to get to that point. It took me a lot longer than someone maybe, hey, in your 20s, teens, whatever the case is, or it might be in your 50s or 60s. But it doesn't matter, as long as we're continuing to go on that journey and don't give up. And I think that's so important. What you guys are talking about is both so powerful, and I appreciate both of you guys sharing. Question number 3, Leena, we'll go with you. How has failure shaped your life?
Failure has allowed me to see it as an opportunity. I think a lot of the times, similar to the way we're raised, we're like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? But I've been able to, see it as a learning opportunity. And in doing that, being able to see it as a launching pad. I think my favorite saying is a setback is a setup for a comeback. And I love
Nice.
that so much. And I use that as like a power statement for my life. But I think we we like to add meaning in this life, in this human life, and we always see failure as bad. And I don't and what I've learned is that failure is it's a part of life. It's a learning lesson and it's an opportunity to adjust, to abandon, whatever it is
Yeah.
that we feel is the next step, but it's never bad.
Krista, how has failure shaped your life?
I think for me, failure has been like success in that it I came into those two things very clearly defined as what they were. Like my success looked really specific and my failure looked really specific. And now I
Mhm.
realize that it's all relative and it's all useful. And I define success very differently now. And same thing with failure. I've told this story on the podcast a bunch of times. I'm not going to go into it, but I had a very tragic fall off the corporate ladder that really humbled me but also made me realign my relationship with success and reminded me, like it was like the last reminder I needed to integrate that piece of us that wants to have success externally. Now I define success as my internal peace, right? Like Leena is looking, her guide point is harmony, mine is peace. If I'm at peace with myself and at peace at the world, then I am so successful, I can't stand it. And it doesn't mean money, it doesn't mean the house I have or the car I drive or the clothes on my back. And same thing with failure. I've failed it like 5, 6, 7 times trying to get something entrepreneurial off the ground. And it was not until just now with Leena that we're really
Mhm.
pushing forward, and it takes time and patience and
Yeah.
compassion. And failure is not a bad thing, it's a good thing.
I used this analogy the other day talking about failure, that if you take where I am in life, and if I go back and I had 0 failures, I would never be where I am right now. I would be
Mhm.
so far behind than where I am right now. And sometimes I think that's a good way to look at it, that you have to have them, because if you did not, your life would suck and you would
Yeah.
be,
It never stretches you.
yeah,
Yeah.
you would be, yeah, who knows what I would be doing if I didn't have all the failures I had. I mean, boy, oh boy, I've had some bad ones, but well, quote unquote bad ones, but they've brought me to where I am today. And I joke around all the time. I put it in my book as well that I filed bankruptcy like 15 years ago, and now that I have this thing in the back of my head at all times where I'm scared to death of money. Like I'm scared of credit cards. I'm scared of all this stuff. But all of that has done financially for me, has made me have more money and more successful, and 0 bills, and all that stuff would happen because of that horrible going through that bankruptcy. So I
Mhm.
look back now, and boy, going through it, it was brutal and embarrassing and all that good stuff. But now, like, it's made me exactly who I am today. So without that opportunity, gosh, who knows what I'd be? It's when you're going through it, it sounds so scary, but it's in reality, it's the best thing typically that can happen to you.
Mhm.
Question number 4. Uh, what is question number 4? Or question number 4 is, who do you know that I should know? Either one, you can take that one. I love that question, by the way.
I mean, anyone that's come to any of both of our podcasts, I
Well, give me
think.
somebody. Like, who do you look up to? Who's the mentor for you? Who should I reach out? If I reach out to this person and say, Krista told me to call you, who is that one person?
Oh man, I would have to say right off the top of my head is James McCrae. So
Okay.
he wrote a book called Shit Your Ego Says.
Okay.
And after him, I'd say Corey Allen, and he wrote a book about mindfulness, and it's this beautiful book and Corey is so present, and I think like as a culture, we're really desiring to see the masculine show up in this more intentive, attentive, and mindful way. And both of those men, I think, just really give me hope for the evolution of the masculine in our culture.
Mm,
And those two guys are incredible. They have incredible books, followings, teachings, everything.
perfect.
Leena?
Leena, lay it on me. Who do you know that I should know? And while you're thinking about that, whether you're thinking about it, now, let me tell you a quick story. It's because
This
it popped in my head, so now I got to tell it. I had a friend of mine named Tej on the show. Tej is it's Teej. Her last name's Cummins. She's a leadership or sales and leadership coach. I've known her for years and years and years. She told me the greatest story. I said, Tej, who do you know that I should know? And she said, you should know my dog. And I said, really? I said, well, tell me about your dog. She said, my dog's name is Awesome. I said, well, first of all, that's the coolest name of a dog I've ever heard in my entire life. If your dog's name is Awesome, it's got to be pretty awesome. But it was the lesson she told me after that. She said, my dog, no matter what is going on in my dog's day, they're always happy to see somebody. They're always running up and saying hi and just being super friendly and always willing to, whether if you're crying or unemotional, you can always go to Awesome, and Awesome was always there for you. And I want to be more like Awesome. And I said, you know what? That's a great story. So that is one of the best answers I've ever had is, who do you know that I should know? My dog, Awesome. Leena, what do you think?
So I have two answers as well. The first one I think of is a woman I've connected with on my podcast, and she wrote a book kind of behind me in yellow, co-wrote, called Let That Shit Go, and her name's Nina Purewal. And she is really passionate and has been a big advocate in my stepping into this space too, of decolonizing spirituality and bringing the awareness to these words and rituals and culture that have been appropriated, especially from Hinduism and the Eastern religions. And so she's really helping to bring awareness back to the words and the things we say and the things we do that were basically stolen from these really sacred practices. And the second one I can think of is Elena Brower, and she was kind enough to give me a voice on her platform as, I want to say a nobody. I mean that in the most loving, compassionate way possible for myself at this moment. But she said to me very blatantly that, she was able to see our vision and Gate is giving the space through her kindness and generosity to let voices like us step up and lead. And she, said to me that I will always hold this, and I want to put this on a plaque on my wall, that she said what we're creating and me personally has changed her idea that she can learn from younger people.
Oh,
And
that's
that,
cool.
the younger generations have this power, and we have so much power to create change and create the future and change these systems that have kept so many people, separate from this idea of who they truly are and their purpose and how capable they are.
Yeah, it's so important to learn from every single person you come in contact with, no matter what the age
Mm-hmm.
is.
Yeah.
In my phone, I reach out to random people pretty much every other day, probably, that I haven't talked to in a long, long time. And I'll just scroll my phone, and whoever it lands on, I'm typically going to call them out of the blue and just ask them how their day is and what's new in their life. And then, boy, the things you learn from from the people that are already in your wheelhouse is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. But as a society in general, we're terrible. We hear, what is it, we listen but we don't hear anything,
Yeah.
so someone can tell me a great story and I don't remember what the hell they talked about, and that's just not good. And I've worked really, really hard to be a better listener and be more present. So I don't even know where I was going with that, but that's what it made me think of. Question number 6 is no 5 is what have you read that I should read? Leena, you can go and start with that one.
That's a great question.
Thank you.
Well, if you want a brain explosion, I keep recommending this book to everyone called The Journey of Souls.
Okay.
And it's by a hypnotherapist named, I might get this wrong, Michael Singer. And it was written in the 90s. And he basically put people into one of the deepest hypnoses possible at the time, and basically interviewed them about the meaning of life and why we choose the life that we choose. And basically going back to what we were talking about before, about how how learning is a lesson, and how our souls choose these lessons in these moments of adversity to learn and grow and to expand. And it's kind of a big brain explosion for anyone who likes that kind of stuff.
I love that kind of stuff. And it freaks me out in a good way. I love
Yeah.
it. I always think that to myself that we have answers for everything in our life.
Yes.
Yet we are clouded by the bullshit we keep putting in our
Yes.
head or keep watching
Yeah.
or reading. I mean, it's so freeing to get away from that stuff and actually like sit down and like, damn, I just figured that out. I knew that.
Mhm.
Or just allowing your mind to be more open-minded is just so powerful. So I'm
Well,
glad you said that.
we're conditioned to assume that all the answers and the power live outside of ourselves. That's how the systems work. Otherwise, there would be no systems, and we would have a much different way of going about things. So
Yeah,
to reclaim that and understand that you do have all the answers, I think, is one of the biggest shifts that we can make in our lives.
it's super powerful. Krista, what have you read that I should read?
So one of my favorite books is by David Nichtern, and it's called Creativity, Spirituality, and Making a Buck. And this is something that a lot of us who are transitioning from traditional roles into entrepreneurial roles, who are spiritual and sometimes struggle with the reconciliation between having an offering and also supporting yourself. This is something that Leena and I have heard throughout our podcast, is like, how much do you charge for stuff? And how certified is certified enough? And like,
Yeah,
and what if you don't have certification or education? And how do you sort of hone your skill sets where there isn't a box, because spirituality is not a box that anyone ever lives in. And David Nichtern is one of the great Buddhist minds, and he is was very close to like Ram Dass and
mm,
Krishna Das, and he was a music producer, and he had like he's got Grammys, and he it puts it very succinctly of how to reconcile that for yourself as a spiritual entrepreneur, and even not just a spiritual entrepreneur, but somebody who's wanting to enter the marketplace from a place of integrity
mm,
and for the greater good of the collective. How do you go about making money in a way that feels transparent and aligned with your core
yeah.
values? It's a really great book.
I'll have to check it out.
And there's
Well,
a corresponding podcast as well, and that's really good. And then one last thing I'll say is
yeah.
we also have a whole list of books to help people read according to like where they are on the spiritual path of awakening on our website, like castingmedia.com. So
Mm,
if anyone needs a reading list, we've got it there for you.
yeah, perfect. All right. Krista, question number 6, I think. I lost track of my numbers, but doesn't matter. What have you done that I should do?
Um, well, I guess this is hard because I don't know what you've done.
Not much. I moved offices. That was exciting. There you go. That's something new.
I would say one of the things that it's really cheesy to say, because it's one of those like things you hear everybody say, like, oh, you just do this and blah blah blah. One of the things was traveling outside of the United States, but going to somewhere that isn't first world,
Mm,
second, third world, and seeing how much joy is in the hearts of people who are not tethered to capitalism.
yeah.
I think there's no more valuable experience you can have in realizing how far flung we've come as a society in our Western world, so attached to our materialism and consumerism. You go to these places and you just realize it's so beautiful to understand. So I would say if you have the chance to go to a third world country to visit and to uplift their economy, do that. That's one
Mm.
thing I would make sure everyone should have to do.
I've never been told that before, and I love it. It's a great idea. Lena, what do you think? What have you done that I should do?
So I think that you should look in the mirror at yourself every single day and make eye contact with yourself and say, I love you.
Okay.
It has
I've Go
forever
ahead.
changed the way I view myself. And I had so many health issues postpartum, and anyone who's had a kid knows the struggles of what your body goes through after giving birth and supporting a human, all the
Yeah.
things. And that simple practice, which I think stems from Louise Hay's work, but it has changed everything. Just saying, I love you so much. You are so loved. And it within a week, my whole reality changed and my view of myself.
Really? That's powerful.
Try it. You
I should
do
try it.
I guess that is the question, right?
That is the question. Absolutely. I tried to do that a while ago, and I don't know why I didn't continue to do it. Looking back, it's been years and years and years since I've done that. But maybe the reality of that reason I stopped doing it was because I didn't love the person across from me, you know? And I think
Mhm.
that's I think that's very powerful for everybody, for just recognizing that when you begin to say that every day, whether you may not even believe it, but I think it's
Yep.
probably important just to say it every day, and eventually you start to believe it. So that's I appreciate you sharing. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, if you're uncomfortable looking at yourself in the mirror, there's some self-worth there that is asking to be loved.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Final question. Question number 7 is how can I add value to you? So Krista, go ahead and take that one. What can I do for you?
I think the value add for any interaction we have with one another is showing up authentically for each other as ourselves and making sure that we stay mindful in our interactions so that we meet each other on this beautiful bridge of our highest self. And I think we're doing that right now in this conversation. I feel very aligned with our energy and very, I feel like we're at peak right now. We're having this really beautiful, open, ethereal conversation, and we're kind of tying everything together. To me, I think the value add is to always remind people, show up just as you are, because that's what the world needs.
Yeah. Leena, how can I add value to you?
I was going to say the same exact thing almost, but I'll add on top of that the presence. I think we are so disconnected from our presence, with our phones and social media and all the noise and all the things and the busy lifestyles we have. And to me, anyone who can sit with you and be fully present and just be completely in each other's energy and aware and conscious and loving and, like Krista said, authentic, I think there's nothing like that in presence. That's my add-on to Krista's answer.
Yeah, it's and that's the beautiful thing about podcasts. And people ask all the time, well, what, I've been doing this now for just over 4 years now, and I don't know how many I got 600 episodes or something goofy like that. But the reason I love doing them is just for the conversations. Like
Mhm.
it's like how often now in this world where we could sit down and actually have a real
Mhm.
conversation without
Yes.
distraction and no interruptions.
Yes.
And if I could, if the, and I'm guilty as charged as anybody else, but if I could take what I learned by doing a podcast and actually use it in real world, instead of like constantly looking at my phone in the middle of a conversation, or check, whatever the case is, but being 100% present in all conversations, that right there would be one of the biggest game changers I could probably ever do. Ladies, I love you coming on the show. You guys mean everything to me. Every conversation, Leena, this is our first conversation. Krista, our last couple conversations have been amazing. Tell everybody around the galaxy where they can find you guys.
So you can find us on Instagram at Enlightenedhood, or online at our main website is House of Enlightenedhood. And then we also have a digital media platform called Lightcasting Media. So you can find us at lightcastingmedia.com as well. And we have podcasts, video series, articles, everything there. That's kind of the voice of this movement and this global takeover that is about to ensue.
It's going to be a lot of fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm ready.
We're ready.
I'm excited about your future, and obviously as we continue to talk, and obviously we're not going anywhere. We'll get you guys back on the show for sure. I would love to, check back in 6 months from now and see where we're at and see how it's grown, and even talk about some of the difficulties, some of the quote unquote failures. So it would be great to go through that, because I think sharing the ups, sharing the wins is so important, that I think we all should share the wins. But I think it's just as important to share the losses and be authentic with that, so other people can learn from the quote unquote mistakes. But
Yeah.
we're all in it together, and I think that's what we understand. If we all know that we're all in it together, wins and losses, we
Mhm.
all grow that much faster, and that much more meaningful as well. So
It's so funny you say that, because we just made the decision that we're turning our Instagram into a digital diary of just showing the journey of what we're building, because we're trying to create a new way to show up online and really make it our swan song to social media, as a way to say this is what we're building, and then we're going to hop off this platform onto our own. So see you later.
it's great, because I'm telling you, one of the things that's the biggest impact from my show is the brutal, authentic reality of my life. Like the
Yeah.
the things I've done podcasts where I've just cried the whole damn time. I mean, it's just some of the shit going on in my life, but that's the authenticity that we need more now than we ever have. And I think it's more people are drawn to that now, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then again, that's what makes sure what you guys are doing is so important. So again, guys, thank you so much for coming on, and I'll have everywhere to connect with these guys on the show notes also. So I appreciate everybody tuning in from all around the galaxy. Make sure you run over to jeremytodd.com. Check out all the stuff I got over there. It's super cool. Leave those 5-star reviews on iTunes, allows other people to find the show. And I'm begging you to go into YouTube and subscribe. Now that's so damn funny. Quick tangent. One of my goals is to get to 1,000 YouTube subscribers. I have no idea how to do it. I have tried absolutely everything. I'm at 198 people follow me on YouTube, which I think is a win, because before I had like 20 for like 4 years. So I think that's a win, but damn it, run over to YouTube for me and just subscribe just so I can quit bitching about it. I'd love that too. I say it in every single episode. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. You've got greatness within. Like always, this is the positive side. Oh, I don't want to hit that button. Oh, don't want to hit that button either.